I want to turn now to someone who not only understands what's going on from a policy perspective, but also from a personal one. Democratic Senator Amy Klobuchar of Minnesota, whose husband is recovering after contracting coronavirus. And Senator, I guess first I just want to check in on how your husband is doing and what the experience has been like.
He's doing so much better. And when I hear the cases now, the one thing I can relate to, because he got out of the hospital still with pneumonia, but was able to recover after a very low oxygen. I just think of all those families, some of whom I know, that we all know, that can't be at the bedside of their loved one, that can't hold their hand. In the worst of worst cases, that aren't there when they die. That can't hug the healthcare workers that are at their side. That's one of the hardest parts of this disease. And I want to thank your last guest there of pointing out that this is about these major urban areas, but it is coming to rural. That one county in Georgia, where they have lost so many people in a rural area, our highest per capita death rate is in a rural county in Minnesota. So I think it's very important for people to understand all across the country that it can happen to anyone and that you've got to follow the rules, despite what the White House may have been saying, as you so well pointed out just a few weeks ago.
Do you have confidence? I mean, we have seen a transformation in rural health care over the last 10, 15 years, and particularly in states that didn't expand Medicaid. Minnesota is one of the states, of course, that did expand it. But there has been a real a decline in the amount of available beds in a lot of places in rural America, a lot of closing down of medical facilities. Are you confident Minnesota at least is prepared in those rural areas outside of metropolises to deal with this?
Well, I'm on the phone twice a week with our hospital association, so I know they are coordinating, and they've had a little more luxury of time because the wave is coming here later. But we know those rural areas, sometimes there's only 1 or 2 ventilators in the county. And if people start getting sick like they did in this one county in Minnesota, it is very difficult to deal with it. People are spread out. There's more seniors in these areas. And a lot of them were listening to the president, honestly, a few weeks ago when he said, I hope everyone will be in church for Easter. That sent a message to them. And I am thankful that message has changed. But for some people, it is too late. And I appreciated what you said at the beginning of your show, Chris, because you know what I was thinking? I was thinking back to the Republican convention. And you remember this, when Donald Trump stood up in front of America and said, I alone can fix this. He said he understood government, and he said, I alone can fix this. Now, here we are in the middle of what they have rightly characterized as a war, and he is saying, well, I am back up to the state's governors. I am back up. That's not fixing it. When hospitals are getting masks that are for kids, when they're for adults, that's not fixing it. When he did not use the powers that he was given by the United States government to invoke the Defense Production Act immediately and do something about it, that's not fixing it. And when he did not get those tests underway, when we have the world's best scientists here in this country, that is not fixing it.
There are a bunch of things happening right now for folks that are not directly affected by the illness, but are obviously feeling the economic effects, which are even larger in terms of their scope and breadth at this point than the folks who've contracted coronavirus. There's 2 big things I want to ask you about. One is the small business facility that they stood up called the Payroll Protection Program. I've been fielding lots of complaints from a lot of people who say it has been really disaster. I think the program that they were offline for a day, maybe today, the bank interface. Have you been hearing the same thing as small business owners in your state try to actually get through and get that loan?
Yes, this has been a complete botched rollout. We know that. And there's computer issues, but there's also issues because you have a lot of small businesses, particularly in the minority community, African-American businesses, Hispanic businesses, who maybe don't have a relationship with an existing big bank, but may have a smaller bank. The head of the community banks in my state called me because they are not yet able to access this program. They were coming online later. So you can imagine how terrified these small business owners are because they believed that this was going to be rolled out as promised. So this is something that we calls for constant oversight, immediate oversight and potentially immediate changes to this program if it's not going to work.
Do you think you'll be back? I mean, will the Senate be in session to do that? It seems to me that at a certain level, it's hard to provide the oversight that you need to if you're not in session officially.
We are coming back on April 20th is the plan right now. I think there's ample reason to look at an additional bill, everything from the hospital issues to our state and local governments, to what's been happening in the gig economy, to the elections, which we saw in raw fashion today in Wisconsin, where multiple court hearings have resulted in the courts basically saying, sorry, you're out. We're not giving you the additional weeks at the U.S. Supreme Court. And so it just shows why we must immediately, Ron Wyden and I lead the bill for mail-in ballots, but also to make sure that we are allowing polls to be open 20 days in advance across the country. This has got to be a major part of this legislation as well. We cannot allow this administration to stop our democracy.
Yeah, that's going to be a very, very, very big fight. We're going to cover that Wisconsin story in just a bit. Senator Amy Klobuchar, thank you so much for taking time, and best wishes to your husband.
Thank you, Chris.